a little bit about us. So CSC, we'll get started here in a minute, but how many of you heard of CSC before I sent this email out? Well, that's good. I'm doing a good job. I just moved to Bellefonte from Pittsburgh, so hopefully me being around the area will certainly help our branding recognition and things like that as well. So this mouse is so goofy. Hold on. Does somebody want to be my slide turner? Anybody? One person? Yeah. I just want to direct this. For those of you that did some research, you might already know some of this. If you haven't just yet, no big deal. That's why I'm here. But we are a 70,000 person company, so really, really huge. We are all over the world in 70 different countries, which is a pretty big thing. And we work with over 2,500 different clients. That ranges everywhere from government clients here in the U.S. to different governments all over the world to Fortune 500 companies that you've heard of, like Ford, Hyundai, AstraZeneca. So a lot of big names. So even though a lot of people haven't necessarily heard of CSC, they've definitely heard of the work we've done. And with that being said, we have a lot of really big partnerships with Microsoft, Oracle, SAP. So instead of just being our own entity, we work with a lot of companies to solve our clients' big problems. We are an IT public traded company, IT powerhouse, some people like to call us. We do a lot of infrastructure and things, but we also do the solution side as well. So consulting, business consulting, really anything you can think of, we probably do in some capacity. And any company you can probably think of that's pretty big on that Fortune 500 list, we've probably touched at some point, which is pretty exciting stuff. And we're also 12.2 billion worth, which is pretty impressive too, I think. Hopefully it works. Nope. Let's do it from here. All right, so big data. This is the side it's on. So our company is really two sides. We have our commercial side, which works with all of the big companies, the Mercks of the world, the AstraZenecas, the Hyundais, the big companies. And we also have our public sector side, which works with our U.S. government. And our first client was NASA, which is pretty cool stuff, back in the 70s. So you can see here the different areas, the business solutions we're in, everything from Homeland Security, civil, intel, healthcare, defense. We do a lot of classified work. Right now, I'm looking for. You have to get polygraphed, and it takes about a year to get that all through. So if anybody's interested in that, definitely talk to me after. But we do a lot of really impressive and really cool to be a part of. Know that you're making a difference as well. And you can also see here the different next-gen technologies we're hear about today. Also custom platform services. And really what makes us different than a lot of other companies is our people. CSC has a lot of employees that have been here 20, 30, 40 years. It's a pretty lifelong company once you're in the door. And also our line that we work with all of our competitors to help our clients find a solution. It's based on our public sector side, which is the side here, and then our commercial side. And what's pretty neat about the public sector is we do a lot for the government, and it's still a pretty big chunk of our company, 14,000. So we're still going to partner together. Our CEO sits on the board of the other side, so pretty neat the way it's transitioning and moving. It's going to open up a lot of opportunities for new clients and also for our employees, especially you guys coming right out of college, interested in internships or a full-time position, a lot of room for growth, which is really exciting too. So these are just some of our top customers on the public side. I always like to show this because it's neat to see the things that we do. For example, not on and Jacob can actually talk about that because he sits in our Bossier City, Louisiana office, but we have a big contract with the TSA, the NSA. One time, kind of funny side note story, I was in Bossier City visiting them, and I got a call from the IRS, and I was freaking out a little bit. Why are the IRS calling me? Because we do work for them, and they were calling me about work-related stuff, but I thought I was in trouble. So kind of cool the different government agencies we work with and the work that we truly do and help save them money as well. So So corporate responsibility, I know our generation really is interested in the work companies do to give back and to help, and you want to be part with different high schools, middle schools to really help grow the coding industry and things like that too. Getting people excited about STEM programs, and that's something we really want and really need to be a part of. And also we do a lot with U.S. military veterans. We've hired 10,000 veteran spouses, wounded warriors since 2010. That's a pretty big number. And also ranked number 35 best corporate citizens. So just a little bit about what we do, certainly a ton more, but I always like to kind of highlight that too. So what does that some of the opportunities we have. We're definitely a great cultural place to work. I know that's another big thing you guys look for when you're looking for your first job internship. A lot of things, as a recent college graduate and intern, when you enter CSC, you get a great work-life balance. We do a bunch of happy hours and things like that, depending on what office you're in. Also, long-term career potential. You could be working in big data one day, decide 5 years later, I want to get into consulting. That's definitely an option and an easy transition. Also, a lot of professional mentoring. You want to go back and get your master's. If you're not working on that yet, we have a really great tuition reimbursement. We went to a nationals game with all of our new hires and interns. We did a volunteer event with one of the managers, which was really fun too. So pretty fun summer. And then these are the different skill tracks we hire into. So when you joined our talent community, we basically sort through all the resumes and decide which one of these 6 areas would fit, or multiple ones, depending on your resume, especially if you're a sophomore or junior. But there's cybersecurity and networking, computer engineering, and that covers everything from software, systems, IT services, business analyst, and science. So a lot of different areas, a lot of great opportunities as well. And then I just want to give you a brief overview of CSC before you learn more from our speakers about that too. So if you have any questions, jot them down. I promise I'll answer them. Let me just pull the guys up. All right, and we're ready for you guys.
Hey, Amanda, can we walk you through lowering that bit rate real quick? It might make us look kind of blocky, but we're afraid we're going to chop in and out real bad if we don't fix that ahead of time.
Sure. What do we need to do?
Are you hearing me fine right now?
You guys hear okay? Yeah, it's a little, you'll just have to talk loud because there's not a mic.
Okay. All right. Sorry, we're blinking in and out here.
We can see you. We can see you guys and hear you great. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just roll with it. Clint, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Were you gonna put those slides up on your show slides, or?
Sure. I'll go ahead and throw those up. Amanda, if you just want to click on my picture, you can leave the slides up, or you can look at Clint's pretty face there. So, 1 second.
Nobody has them in their bag.
All right.
Just make sure you guys talk loud if you can.
All right. Can you guys see those slides fine?
It was there. Right, I can click on it.
All right, go ahead and go to the next one, Jacob. So a little bit about, can you guys hear me? Am I talking clear enough? Yes? Are you guys there?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay, you were chopping in and out again. So A little bit about 426, an organization within CSE, which Jacob and myself work for. 426 was a small company. We had about 150 people in it. Cutting edge kind of development engineering company that was bought by CSE about 3 years ago. When CSE bought us, they maintained our identity within CSE as kind of an elite organization to affect change in the greater CSE culture and organization. The large CSE company was known for like IT support, system admins, and stuff like that, but didn't have a lot of more modern software engineering practices. They weren't doing a lot of agile. 426 brings to the board user interface driven development, those kinds of things to push it forward, to be more competitive. 426, the name 426 stands, it's a HTTP error code, stands for upgrade required. And the organization specializes, we specialize in big data solutions. We also do some mobile development. So with that, next slide, Jacob.
Are you able to see the slides? Is it the PowerPoint or the actual presentation?
It's the slides like you're editing them. If you want to go into...
Hold on one second. Got some weird stuff going here.
Next time I don't do things smarter. There we go.
So I'll talk a little bit, then I'll turn this over to Jacob so he can talk a little bit more about it. CSE culture, culture of 426. There again is that small company feel. We brought the culture of our offices. You'll see some slides here in a few minutes. We've got a pool table. Back east they've got ping pong tables. It's kind of that Google-esque, Facebook-esque kind of feel to the company. It's kind of laid back. Everybody's a professional, and you're relied upon to get your job done. But flexible work hours. We don't wear suits and ties. It's kind of casual. With that, Jacob actually participated in a workshop culture down in Louisiana because we're building out a brand new facility down there, and they wanted to solidify some of the culture down there. So Jacob, I'll let you talk about that.
All right. Can you guys hear me just fine?
Talk a little bit louder if you can.
I'll try to get a little closer to the mic. Yeah, that's about as good as I can get, Amanda.
That's okay. We're good.
Okay, cool. All right, so I was part of a kind of an internal small group here at CSE that was in charge of designing the culture. What we called it was Culture by Design. They got a group of professionals together to talk to us about building culture, and that there's two ways in a business that culture can happen. It can either happen on its own by accident, or it can happen by being designed. Sounds kind of cheesy, but they made some pretty good points, referring to basically making a point to build your culture and to design it in the way that you want it to be designed. And our study group, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun, and talked about a lot of things from work being fun down to open door policies for managers, kind of a casual, laid back work environment where you can kind of make your own schedule, things like that. Not everything's possible in every situation. We understood, but it was a really neat thing to take a part of. And that's what they're trying to build here at CSE in Bossier City. Really trying to, like Clint said, go for that Google, Facebook appeal. Kind of working on an open floor plan and things like that. The mentality, work hard, play hard. If get your work done, get it done on time, get it done within the hours you're here, and then be done. I mean, you know, there's always that exception of work, but at the same time, you know, you're not expected to work 12-hour shifts and always be on call for your boss, you know, every hour of the day kind of thing. So they're really trying to tap into people's personal lives as far as, you know, letting them live their lives and not ruling it by business or work. So, and the main goal here is really to change the face of the culture in corporate IT. You look at things like Google and Facebook, that's not really, those didn't start out as corporate IT kind of structured, you know, suit and tie kind of places. And CSC traditionally, I think, has been a little more structured than Google or Facebook, and they're trying to wind it down a little bit, relax it a little bit, which is really cool. So, you know, I've only been at CSC since April, and so far I love it. You know, at first I thought, you know, big company, oh no, you know, I'm going to just be another cog in the wheel, another number in their books. But, you know, I've really felt connected, as Clint already pointed out. You know, big company benefits with a small company feel. So let me go ahead and flip over to a slide that shows off our new Bossier City facility. This right here is basically what is being designed for us, actually right across the street of where we are. So right now we're in a government facility. We're leasing the space. I don't know if you guys saw earlier, but it's kind of gray and boring in here right now. But this is what we're going towards. In these slides, you'll see a lot of neat things. You'll see some relaxing and entertainment type areas to kind of kick back, you know, for a few minutes if it's getting crazy at the office and you just need a break. They're looking at things like a cafeteria to serve us food and things like that. A coffee bar, you know, fancy barista behind the counter making caramel macchiatos and such. That'll be nice. And then these desks that we have are completely modular. They want us to be able to move the desks around, meet with different teams and groups, have Scrum meetings. If you don't know what Scrum is, don't worry about it. You know, these meetings where you get together and discuss the project and you know, just talk to people in an informal fashion. You know, don't set up these rigorous scheduled meetings all the time. That's needed from time to time, but you know, to just be casual and do your thing. You know, get the work done and talk to the people you need to get it done with. So that's kind of what they're going for. Really cool. I'm excited to see what's going to come of that. They actually already shipped in one of these desks. It's pretty neat. It even has dual monitor stands, which I'm excited about. That'll be fun. So I'm going to flip over to the next slides, and Clint can take it over. This is their office in Tucson.
So as Jacob said, this is our Tucson office. You know, the two pictures of the desks in the concrete floor there in the corners, that's our developer bay. So it's a big open bay area. Everybody has headphones for when they need to do video conferencing or something like that. Or, you know, if it gets a little loud, you can put your headphones on and listen to music. But it's very collaborative. So when you're sitting right next to somebody, if you've got a question and he's a member of your team, you just pop off those headphones and go, hey Joe, you know, how do I do this? Or, you know, whatever the you know, topic is. You can see in the bottom middle there, the room with the chairs and the TV, that's our conference room. We don't even have a conference table in our conference room because most of our conferences are done with, you know, either code up on the screen for the scrums or our daily burn down charts or Google Hangouts. You know, we are remote. We've got a office in Arizona here, Jacob's in Louisiana, and a bigger part of our you know, 426 organization is in Maryland. You'll see a picture of their office here in a few minutes. As you can see, also on this slide is our pool table and our foosball table. Right to the left of the foosball table is like a garage door. During the warmer months, we'll pop that open on a Friday afternoon, say after, you know, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and just sit back and, you know, chill and socialize and, you know, play a few games of foosball and have a good time and unwind. Go ahead and flip to Columbia, Jacob. And I'll talk a little bit about this. Jacob can chime in. I haven't been to this office yet, but you can see, I mean, they've got a pool table there too, so they take the camaraderie and the teammanship seriously, just like we do. You know, and the kind of relaxed atmosphere. You know, as long as you're getting your work done, then you know, they got beanbag chairs. You can sit there and with your laptop. Everybody gets laptops for work computers. There's no more desktops anymore. You can sit there with your laptop and write code in the beanbag chair. Just be comfortable and innovative at the same time.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. This group in Maryland is an entertaining bunch. I worked on a project, which I'll talk about in a little bit, when I first started here. Didn't know what to expect. I was, you know, kind of high-strung when I first started. And if you see the guy in the bottom left there, that is a guy named Floyd, and he was my team lead for my very first project. And this guy is pretty cool. He's always talking about, you know, hey, you know, I'm sitting in a beanbag chair coding, you know, leave me alone, you know, I'm getting work done, or, you know, just messing around with me. He's always there to help, though. You know, they're all, I always hear, you know, hey, we'll get right back to you. We're playing a game of ping pong or something like that. And fun stuff like that. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting and I see Nerf darts flying across the room, shooting each other with Nerf guns, no lie. They're having a good time over there. They're getting work done, though. You know, it's the work hard, play hard mentality for sure over there. So, you know, each office has its own kind of unique personality, but we're all kind of going towards the same goal here.
So what does exactly 426 and CSE look for? Well, part of the 426 you know, culture and organization, we're looking for developers. We're looking for engineers. CSE, like Amanda mentioned at the beginning of this, has a lot of open positions, and you know, greater CSE looks for people from system administrators to IT people, security people, you name it. For us, though, it's really hardcore engineering. So you got to have a good, like, object-oriented background. You know, the common methodologies like agile, user interface development. You got to have a solid background of that. Databases, because we are a big data. We specialize in big data. You really need to have a good knowledge and background on databases. And not just like MySQL or SQL Server or the relational databases, but also on your NoSQL databases, your big data databases like Hadoop, Hortonworks, Cloudera, those kinds of technologies. And then also nice to haves, you know, we use a lot of different technologies. We like to say we're technology agnostic. So, you know, you come to work for us and you won't be pigeonholed in a C++ role or a Java role. You know, one of our projects could last a couple weeks and you'd be writing Java code. And then if you're interested in it, another project could come up writing C#, Microsoft C# code. There's really a lot of potential there for learning a lot of different things.
And we're about to jump into a little primer for you guys for big data. Are there any questions regarding CSE's culture at this time?
Jacob, you're echoing a little bit. I don't know why. It wasn't doing anything.
All right. Can y'all hear me now? There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's perfect. So
all right. Awesome.
For them first, moving forward.
I'm sorry. What was that, Amanda?
Oh, I just asked if any of them have questions. Anything yet, guys? No questions yet. If you want to keep going.
Okay, great. And you know, we're fixing to jump into the primer for big data. If you know what big data is, you know, feel free to chime in. If you don't, feel free to ask questions. You know, it's kind of open forum. It's not real formal. So, so here we go. I'll give a little bit of an intro. Clint, chime in whenever you know, whenever you want. All right. So we're going to ask a few questions here. How many people in the room know what big data is? You know, kind of give me a rough estimate there, Amanda?
We got 2.
2, all right. Hey, that's good, that's good. All right, I'll be honest, when I started here, I had no clue what big data meant. I had to Google it, and I found a Wikipedia article, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool and confusing all at the same time. It's really not that bad. So we're going to ask a few questions here. What is big data? How does it differ from traditional databases, and how does big data work? Now, for those of you that do know what big data is, this is very high level, nothing super detailed in that regard. So, all right, so this awesome graphic that I drew up represents a traditional database. So, how a traditional database such as MySQL or SQL Server, Oracle, things like that, operates kind of on this process. So you have your relational database, which holds, relational tables and schemas and things like that, and you have your server, which processes that data. So as the user or application wants to look at that data, what has to happen is a query is sent over to the relational database. The data is then pulled back to the server for processing. Okay, so the bulk of your work is done on the server. Now, regarding that, the bigger and bigger your data gets, the more and more space you need on your relational database system to store that data. Kind of obvious. However, the more and more data you get, the more and more your server is going to have to process that data. Now, herein lies the problem and I guess, segue into the big data solution. As your data and processing grows, you need bigger and bigger servers. Now, there are plenty of vendors out there willing to let you hand them big, gigantic sacks of money for these bigger and bigger servers. But it starts to become an issue both with cost and with maintainability when you start to look at these servers. So, the green square is how you start your project out. You have this normal server chugging away. The yellow square is the one that says, hey, things are getting a little bigger. We need a more powerful server. We need more cores. We need more memory. And then the red is where a lot of people get when they hit the big data wall. And they say, okay, we have this ridiculous server that we're paying, thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars for a year or a month. It's using all sorts of power. It's insane core and memory usage. It's not even worth the price. And so thus the introduction of big data. So from my current understanding, big data was originally created by Google using some of their technology, and it was later spun off into an open source project. In essence, big data is simply a distributed file system. Think of it like any file system on your computer. You store files with documents in them. These documents can be any kinds of documents. You can have Word documents or text documents, XML documents, that kind of thing. The document doesn't really matter. It stores it. So the solution for big data operates on one that we're very used to in computing, which is this idea of kind of a parallel processing, but not from the perspective that you normally think. Normally you think, okay, slap a processor in the computer that has multiple cores or can, I don't know if the term's still used anymore, but hyperthread, treat it like it's processing multiple things at a time. And you basically spin that off into an actual hardware world. So what happens with big data is you have this server which contains an index. So think of the index just like a phone book. It tells the database basically where all of the data is stored. So if you want to know where file A is, it tells you file A is on data node 1, 2, and 3. So these data nodes over here are actual computers. This is actual hardware or virtual machines running parts of this distributed file system. Okay? And the way that it works is when a file goes into this master server kind of concept, it says, you know what, we think that as this gets bigger and bigger, hard drives and machines, they're going to fail. So the distributed file system says, well, we probably need to replicate that data in case something fails. So when file A goes into the system, it actually replicates file A across 3 computers, 3 of the data processing nodes. This allows for high availability and high processing. It has multiple places that it can read the data from, and if one of those data nodes goes down, if a computer or hard drive fails, then it has a place to pick back up. What's really awesome about some of this big data technology is that if one of those nodes goes down, it will automatically repair itself. So it will tell you, hey, a node went down in your management software, but in the meantime, if, let's say, data node 3 goes down and you lose your 3rd copy of file A, it's going to put file A in data node 4 to where you still have 3 copies of file A. So big data provides high availability, the ability to pick back up and not lose anything. It also provides high processing. So in the previous example, you saw that the relational database pulls the data to the server and processes the data on the server. With big data, the requests or the code, a process called MapReduce, is sent over to the data nodes and processed on the computers where the data is themselves. So think of this in a similar way at your college. Let's say the president of the university says, okay, I need to count every student in our university while they're in class at 3 o'clock p.m., let's say. And in the traditional sense, the president would hire one individual to go out and go to each classroom at 3 o'clock and count those people up. He probably will have to go during different days. He probably won't get done for an entire month. Now, with the big data kind of concept, the professor sends out an email and says, hey, I need every the president sends out an email and says, hey, I need every professor to count their students and send me back their count by the end of class today. He's just accomplished what would have taken one person, let's say a month, to do in the matter of the class time. So that's in essence what's going on here with big data. You're basically parallel processing your files. And it's very simple, yet very powerful. And it can scale, if you need more processing power or more data space, you just add another node to the system. The system knows the node's there, it attaches itself, and it just picks up where it left off. It doesn't see any interruption. You don't have to do a whole lot of configuration, if any. And so, it's a really awesome thing to work with and to look at, and to process your data quickly and responsibly. Clint, do you have anything to add to the big data conversation?
Real quick, guys, we have one question.
Okay.
My question is, when you go to the control of the data you have to process, and
Amanda, could you repeat that question to us, please?
Maybe you can come closer, might be easier. Sorry.
Yeah. The data, if you outsource it to any of the big data companies such as MongoDB, because through my understanding, when you control of the system, but then when you go to big data and all the data nodes, do you lose any control of the data when you try to process it at all?
Okay, we're getting some breaking out there. Is the question that whenever you choose a big data solution, you lose control of your data, essentially?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay. No. When you select a big data solution, you have full control over your data. I'm sure there's plenty of vendors out there that are willing to manage your big data for you for a nice hefty fee, another large bag of money. But at 426 and CSC, we actually manage all that data ourselves. Where the costs come in are support for some of these open source tools. There's 3 main big data distribution vendors out there. One is known as Hortonworks, another one is known as Cloudera, and there's another one known as MapR. All 3 of these vendors they have it's open source software that they either host or that's already out there by the Apache Foundation. Um, However, they offer support for their software. So you're paying for support, not for them to manage your big data. You actually don't lose any control over your data.
So let me chime in here for a second, Jacob. So when we have projects that come up, the customer, the client, they've got the option. They can host their big data solution on a cloud solution, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and then in those instances, you don't really, you lose a little bit of control. I mean, those cloud services still give you all the ability to go in and do whatever you want to with your data and everything, but it just sits on their machines. There's also the possibility of hosting your big data solution on CSC's networks, which is kind of like the same thing as a cloud solution, only on our network, our corporate servers. And then the third option for a client is what we like to call a bare metal solution. Say a client has something that's really sensitive. They don't want their data going out on a network anywhere. They want it all within their walls. They can purchase their own hardware, which is not as expensive as a really big server solution. You know, those data nodes, a lot of times they're on desktop machines or small mini servers or something. And then with open source technologies like Jacob said, Hortonworks, just the plain Hadoop Apache stack, we can put those together and provide a solution that's a big data solution for that customer that wants all their data kept within their walls.
And
does that answer your question?
And what's cool about some of this open source software is that, you could go home this evening and download the Hadoop distributed file system, and you could actually play with it on your own home network or on your own computer. I think there's a way to kind of set that up in a local sense to just test it out and understand what it's doing. It's all open source. It doesn't cost you anything. You can test that out to your heart's content.
So, some of the companies, as a matter of fact, like Hortonworks, actually has training. You can go out there and you download their virtual machines, their VMs, set it up in a virtual environment, and take their classes and get a certification in big data and Hadoop.
Thanks.
Cool. Are there any other questions at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay, good question. Thank you for that. All right, so who uses big data? There's a number of industries that use big data. Anyone who has big data, lots and lots of data. I actually have some experience using it in the health and life sciences, which I'll talk about in a minute. We're also using it internally, which I'll talk about in a minute, for some internal tracking for CSC as far as like human resources and such go. If you think about cell phone carriers, telecommunications, they have the ability to track every phone call, every text message, all of that kind of thing within the terms of use, and they can hold on to all this data and they can analyze and that kind of thing. If you think about things like Amazon, I'm pretty certain that Amazon is using big data. What they're doing when you select an item, so let's say you go look for, a USB cable for your phone, and at the bottom you'll see, hey, other people who bought this USB cable also bought this. That's using big data. What they're doing is they're comparing all of this information that they've gathered from other people shopping on their website, and have said, they bring back this result that says these people who bought this also bought these top 3 items, and they can advertise to you in that way. And I've fallen for it once or twice myself, so they must be doing a good job. So how does CSC use big data? as I mentioned earlier, we use my very first project here was for a internal resource tracking web application. As you can see over there to the right, that's an image of this application. Numbers and names were scratched out for sensitivity purposes, but you get the general idea. We used Spark to ingest the data as a tool called Apache Spark, and Hadoop to perform jobs on that data and return the data in a fashion that made sense. So in this example, you see we're tracking our fiscal year 2016 human capital, things such as headcount and hires, different types of terminations, things like that. I was also instrumental in creating that map you see there. I mean, it's a heat map that shows where all of our employees are. That can be it can be adjusted live as well to show, well, where are the employees that were hired this year? Where are the employees that had voluntary terminations or even involuntary terminations, and certain other things there. So you can combine big data with all sorts of tools, and this is kind of a business intelligence framework right here that you're looking at to display this kind of information. Speaking of CSC and culture, I'll segue into that real quick and then I'll come back. I was a developer on the project you see on the screen, and speaking of career growth, I've actually moved into a technical architecture role into the next project you see, which is the healthcare fraud prevention. So CSC did allow me to kind of move into that role and actually orchestrated that for me. So it was really cool that they were concerned about the growth of my career as well. So speaking on that healthcare fraud prevention project, we're still architecting that solution up, but this is for the Health and Human Services Department of the U.S. government, and what they want to do is they want to be able to track Medicare and Medicaid fraud. And what we're going to do is we're going to get with different partners like United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield. They'll submit us some data. We will collect all of this massive amounts of data into a big data solution. We're going to use Hadoop, and we will then perform different studies against that data and show these participants in the studies how they can prevent their fraud. They'll be able to kind of drill into that data and see where specific things are happening. As it was described to me aptly today, if Joe the dentist out here is performing a bunch of Medicaid root canals and offering out a bunch of OxyContin, hey, well, Joe throws a red flag. Let's go find Joe and see what Joe's up to, because Joe doesn't seem like he's up to much good. So no offense if there's any Joes in the room. But yeah, so that's what we're working on with that. And it's going to be a pretty cool project. I'm looking forward to it and already having a good time with that. So, Clint, you want to speak to these other two?
Yeah, I'll speak to them briefly. One of the general themes, if you haven't picked up on it with big data, is the data by itself is meaningless. You can have all this data and it just by itself is meaningless. You can store it, retrieve it. So what? What's the big question? Usually you're trying to solve a problem, and by looking at the relationships within the data, that's where all the nuggets are. So you have analysts that sit down and look for relationships. One of the problems that was presented to me a little while ago was insider threat problem. So you guys remember Snowden in the news a while ago. He was a good example of an insider threat. You have a guy that's on the inside of a classified network that has a clearance and looks just like everybody else. He's doing his work, but he decides that he wants to go rogue and steal a bunch of data and give it to our enemies, give it to other countries, to sell it. So the problem was how do you identify these people when they look and feel just like everybody else? So in the systems, in the network, you have logs that collect all kinds of data. So one of the solutions and one of the approaches that we took in this prototype system was to look at all the system logs and look for anomalous behaviors. So if somebody came in after hours and was downloading huge amounts of files, or came in on the weekend, that could pose a red flag. We chose the Hortonworks stack for that because it was pretty easy. You can go out there; it's open source, it's free. Download it and set it up within a couple of days. We used was a Kibana and Elasticsearch as our front ends because those were already, they're open source, they're out there. You can just grab them and they'll display your data for you in graphs and charts and stuff. And then we wrote some custom back-end code to be able to do that analysis. Normal workday is from 8 to 5. So, anything that's in a log file from 8 to 5, ignore. Anything, after that, maybe raise a red flag. And there was a bunch of other rules in the system. We had several dozen rules of, downloads. If they were huge amounts of downloads, raise a red flag. Things of that nature. You're trying to do that kind of analysis with your data. Coral Reef is another military project. Uses Mark Logic on the server end and MongoDB on the front end. That project looks at like cell phones, looking for bad guys from relationships. We got their cell phone and noticed that they know these 5 people. So you go to those 5 people, you get their phone numbers, and maybe at another installation you picked up one of those other guys. Now you have his cell phone and his 5 people, and you're looking for relationships. So you can build entity networks to find those relationships, to go, oh, this guy knows this guy knows this guy. That guy is a bad guy. Maybe this guy's a bad guy as well. And go out and do that kind of analysis. Back to you, Jacob.
Okay. Yeah, well, actually, I'll let you talk on mobile now and how CSC is in the mobile arena.
The next slide. Okay. Just real briefly, we're just starting to, CSC has a lot of other mobile projects, but in the 426 domain, we've got a few going on. I'm not going to speak to the projects so much as some of the technologies that we use. We like, in 426, we like presenting a solution that's very flexible. So a lot of our solutions are HTML5 and CSS based because it's not truly mobile, it's mobile web. But that way, you can use that same code on multiple different platforms. You just got to, write the CSS so that the displays are different for different size displays. Having said that, there's sometimes that just won't get you where you need to be. So we also do use technologies like AngularJS on the iOS world, Objective-C and Swift. Cordova is a technology that kind of, you write it once and it does all the conversion for you. It'll spit out, lack of a better term, executables for the iOS platform, for an Android platform, so on and so forth. That's just kind of the touch on some of our mobile stuff.
And to add what Clint was saying, this application here to the right, we actually coded this. One second. We actually coded this to be mobile ready. So the tiles and different kinds of things that you see there actually scale very well to a tablet or even a mobile phone. So there's lots of menus and stuff in this portal that you don't see here, but they scale very well to mobile, and we prepared in advance for that. So it's neat to see that just kind of magically work. I come from a line of work in the past where I didn't see that a lot. You had to really work to make it mobile ready. So that was pretty cool. But that's the end of kind of what we were going to present to you guys today. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask questions.
You didn't have anything? No questions? I'm sorry. I got real close.
So how does your training process, like, how's that going through?
Training process, you said?
So you get training into like, let's say the Agile or Scrum, and then you also get, I guess, trained into the actual department of it.
So a lot of it is kind of like just OJT. As far as when you start on a project, your team members will help you. You get assigned a mentor. Preferably, you'll have some knowledge. Say, take for example HTML5 in a mobile project. Preferably, you'd have some HTML experience, so you kind of know what's going on and you kind of pick it up. In addition to the informal, on-the-job training, CSC does offer a huge benefits package for training. One of the really big things is CSC offers $15,000 a year for a master's program if you're done with your bachelor's and you want to continue on. In addition to that, there's CSC University, which is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of classes that are self-paced. You just go out there and download a class and take it at your will. They break it up usually into like hour chunks. And then in addition to that, we really provide like Hortonworks. We have a corporate relationship between CSC and Hortonworks to get training for that.
Thank you.
And I can touch to that a little bit. Being a recent hire of CSC, I started out with a knowledge in C#, some web programming, that kind of thing. And when I got on, they said I would be doing JavaScript and AngularJS. Now, I've never used JavaScript as a basis for a programming language. And my head was kind of spinning at the beginning, but I actually learned a lot. It turned out to be a really cool project. That's the one that I showed you the screenshot of earlier. Very cool. My team lead and a bunch of people were up for helping me and offered me a lot of resources for training on that. So I knew no AngularJS, no JavaScript from a framework perspective, only from kind of an additive perspective. And they gave me the time to ramp up, but they also gave me the tools to ramp up. So when Clint says, kind of the on-the-job training kind of thing, they do a really good job of giving you the time to get up to speed and then letting you do the work. So, and as I've heard many times with a lot of our leaders, and especially Hank, one of our leaders with 426, he says it's mostly about fundamentals. So he wants to make sure that you have a strong fundamental background of what programming is, what object-oriented programming is, how to solve complex problems, programming aside. You guys are engineers, so you deal with that every day in class and that kind of thing. So, as long as you have a strong fundamental background of these things, then that'll take you very far.
Anybody else? Oh, she asked what a day in the life is at CSC.
A day in the what?
A day in the life, like what a new hire would be doing.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll speak to it, and then Clint, if you want to chime in, feel free. Let's see. I'll be honest, my first few days here, I was kind of lost. It wasn't from a disorganization perspective, but from a, not knowing what to do. They were pretty laid back, like, hey, here's some materials you need to fill out for your first day on the job. You'll find that out any first job you go to that's bigger than maybe 20 people. There's lots of paperwork to fill out, but that's okay. Get you started. When you start as a new hire, I received a lot of advice and training. So they were ramping up a project. They put me on the project with my team lead, and I said, "Hey, what do I need to do to learn this stuff?" So he pointed me to some free online material, some that CSC offered as well, and let me do some training. You know, they didn't throw me to the wolves. They really didn't. I'm always afraid of that, and it never seems to happen. So turned out really good there. I mean, you know, pretty laid back, and got it done.
I can speak a little bit more to this. So everybody's experience is going to be slightly different, obviously, but the developers here out in Arizona, what they do mostly is, so around 9 o'clock we have our scrums for the project that's being run in the back for the majority of the developers. We've got several different projects. So they come in anywhere between 7 o'clock in the morning local time and 5 minutes to 9. It just depends when they want to come in. Make sure that they're into the scrum, so they get the daily stand-up for Agile, what the task, what you did yesterday, what you did today, what, you know, do you have any roadblocks, you know, those kinds of things. Then after that, you know, go out to their desks in the Bay Area, sit down and start working on their tasks. You know, it could be you know, a coding assignment or something like that. It's not very regimented, so you could work there for a half an hour and get up and get a drink of coffee. You could work there for 5 hours if you're just really focused on something. Just all depends on the individual, and that's pretty much how the day goes. And then as long as the, you know, we're all professionals, so as long as you get your time in, if you get your tasks done, then there's no issue. If you've got to take off 2 hours early one day, make that time up the next day. That's not an issue. So everybody's day kind of is flexible and changes. I'm an engineering manager, so I don't write code in the back. My day is, I usually come in around 7:30 in the morning. I sit down and I go through emails. You know, I work on PowerPoint slides. I attend meetings. You know, stuff like that. But that's at my level. I'm doing a lot of phone calls and email management kind of stuff. I walk around in the bay, check on the guys, make sure, you know, there's nothing they need. You know, take care of personnel problems, or not problems, but questions. You know, those kinds of things. And then I'm usually, you know, wrapping up my work day 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's kind of how my day goes.
One cool thing about how the projects are organized here is they break things into small pieces. So as a developer, they're not going to say, hey, go make this massive website. They break things into what they call stories and tasks. It's an agile term. If you don't know what agile is, check it out. You'll probably run into it at some point. It's pretty cool because it allows you to get things done in small pieces that are tangible, that you can say, okay, well, I added this checkbox to this menu or something on this website. I changed the color of this bar graph or something. I added, you know, this feature to this data query or something. So very cool to work in small bits like that. I'm a task-oriented person. I love to check things off a list. I'm sure there are a lot of people in there that do. So it works great for me. It gives me a great sense of fulfillment to know I've checked 10 things off a list, but even though the website isn't done yet, rather than, hey, is the website done yet? Well, no, I haven't checked that massive item off my list yet. So they make it very manageable.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys? No? All right, well, we'll sign off then, guys. Thanks for... All right, bye, guys.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for your time today.